Hello, Exeter, and today our guest is Lovey, Roundtree, Oliff.
Got a car, so filled up, and then after that I bent over.
Pleasure to have you on show one. All right, Lovey.
Hey, Garrett, how are you doing?
I'm doing. How are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here.
Good. I'm happy to have you on the show, just like all of our other guests. Because the people of Exeter are so lovely to talk to.
I know. What guest number am I for this show, I wonder?
Let's see.
Wow, I'm that far down the line. I won't take it personally. There are a lot of fingers getting counted. All right.
I always try to go for who's the easiest to track now.
Great. So you've had a few interviews before getting to me.
I've
That's
had
awesome.
to like chase a number of people down, and then.
Yes, and I should probably say, yeah, I'm also probably one of the harder people because I'm really bad with emails. So I'm glad that you stuck with it and got a hold of me.
Yeah, had to throw a few.
Yeah.
Send a couple of courier pigeons in.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you've lived here in Exeter, I think, for 6 years now?
That's correct.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. So for 6 years, you have been involved with the town heavily.
Yes.
You've been on the select board. And what other boards have you been part of?
SAU Budget Advisory Committee. My first, I'm going to call it a position, was as a soccer coach. So for Parks and Rec.
Nice.
We moved here, I signed the boys up for Parks and Rec soccer, and we immediately got an email saying, we need parent coaches, otherwise we won't be able to run the program. And so I was like, well, I can't want my kids to be in the program and not help out. So I became a soccer coach and quickly started YouTube videos since I made it to basically freshman soccer and then got cut from JV when I was in high school. So
Right.
It required a little bit of research, but we had a great time.
Good.
So that actually kicked things off for me in terms of getting involved in town.
Nice. So I know who to contact if I need some tips for soccer.
There you go.
Maybe that could be like another special. Lovey teaches soccer in the studio.
There you go. Learn how to dribble with Coach Lovey.
Because Selectman Brown was talking about pole vaulting, so maybe we could have a different person on the select board come in and do something.
I tried pole vaulting.
All
I
right.
was much better at hurdles and javelin than pole vaulting.
I almost impaled myself when I tried pole vaulting.
Yep. Yes. You have to be cognizant of where you are and where the pole vault and everything else is.
Yep. Okay, so you were a coach. You were on, eventually that led you to the board. I'm curious how that story occurred.
Yes. So I was on the Budget Advisory Committee, which was an elected position in town. And I had been sitting on that for 2+ years. And that committee worked really heavily on just reviewing the budget for the entire district and, making recommendations to the school board on where we thought money should be spent. And I want to say a few months before the March election, I was approached by a couple of people saying, would you be interested in running for select board? And I quickly said, no, not at all. I would not. But thanks so much for asking. And they came back again probably 2 weeks later and said, no, listen, let's talk through it. And so I said, all right, well, give me the details of what it entails. Like, what does it really mean to be on the select board for the town? What are the commitment, what is it about? And so after sort of hearing more about what we would be doing, the things that we would be involved in, and talking to quite a few people, I sat down with my husband and the kids and said, this is something I might do. How do you guys feel about it? And they were all excited, and I felt like, if they're excited, I should probably be a little more excited. And for me, to be honest with you, I'm a person who believes that if you have issues, you can't just sit and complain. You have to be someone who is either willing to come up with solutions or just keep your mouth shut about it. You know, you can't complain and not have ideas on what could be utilized to make things better or how you can involve yourself to help make things better. So for me, it was, I thought there were some areas in town that could use some updating, so to speak, and some fresh eyes and new blood. And after thinking more about it, I thought I might be interested. And so that's really how it happened. So it wasn't this like me pining over the thought of becoming a select person, you know, the last few years. It really was.
You just got pressured.
It's, you know, and a lot of times people don't realize unless you're asked to be a part of something, many people don't consider it as an option. Mm-hmm. You know, I hadn't been in politics, so to speak, outside of the SAU Budget Advisory Committee prior to that. I had studied politics in college and I was really interested in it. I'd studied the law, but I never thought that it was a possibility, especially as someone who didn't grow up or was raised in New Hampshire. I thought, oh, people wouldn't want to really have an outsider, so to speak, point of view. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, but I'm part of the community. I live here, my kids go to school here. I have ideas about what could be done here. I have appreciation for what's already been done here. So that to me just was like, okay, I can do that. And so far it's been a great experience. It's been hard at times, but it's also been fun. So here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. All right. Well, that was not the story I was expecting to hear.
No, I'm sorry. I know. You were like...
I was expecting to hear like, there was something that inspired me, and then it came to me into a dream. And
I know. Sometimes things are just like, yeah, you know, someone said, would you really be willing to do it? Just, that's how I became a soccer coach.
Yeah.
They were like, we need someone. I'm like, okay. I'll do that.
All right.
And it leads to things that you don't anticipate in your life mm-hmm. when you leave yourself open to what's out there. And so I don't believe in setting my sights so strictly on one thing mm-hmm. that I don't allow other things to come before me. So, you know, I'm still the person who's like, I wonder what I'm going to be when I grow up even more. Because you never know.
Yeah. So
the world is ever changing, and I like flexibility in that realm.
Nice. Great perspective. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious as to the backstory why you ended up moving to New Hampshire. It's always interesting when somebody moves here.
That's an easy one. My husband's job. So he works in medicine and found a really great group to work with, and they were moving to it's in Portsmouth. And so when I knew that we were moving to New Hampshire, I said, well, my only requirement is that we possibly live in a town like Exeter, because I knew that the boarding school was there. And for me, knowing that the boarding school was there, I knew that there was going to be an increased level of diversity from the faculty, from the staff, from the students, and that was important to me. Because I know that New Hampshire in itself is not as diverse as New York City, where I'm from.
Yeah.
So that was the deal, and you know, we stuck with it, and we're here, and so it's been great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's been very interesting, going from a city that's literally like, if the sidewalk is about as wide as this table, it's shoulder to shoulder, to, oh my God, there's trees, there's this land that has nothing on it, there's deer running through my backyard.
Yeah, I was a little used to it. I went to college in Maine, so I went to Bowdoin for college, so I've done my woodsy outing experience for 4 years. And also attended boarding school in Connecticut. So I've you know, experienced New York, experienced the boroughs of New York, and then experienced the backwoods of Maine, you know, sitting in a pickup truck, getting driven to rugby practice. So I've kind of seen a little bit of it all.
Lovey and rugby.
Oh yes, I was a rugby player.
All right, let's do select board rugby night.
That I'm pretty certain I could take.
All right. Exeter Rugby Club. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
the next venture.
That would be pretty awesome, I'm not
We
gonna
can have
lie.
Sherm Chester as her voice.
It would be great.
All right,
The unexpected, I love that you're like, oh, I wasn't.
go right with it. Well, life is an adventure.
It is, it is.
It is. And so for 6 years, I mean, you've lived here in Exeter, and, obviously your husband has his job, but you've been involved. And in, what ways have you seen Exeter grow that's made it so attractive for you to continue to be involved with this community?
Well, I think the wonderful thing about Exeter is obviously its location. Being in the seacoast, just in itself, it's like you're on vacation at home. So part of it is that people have preconceived notion about New Hampshire in general, and I was one of them. I openly admit that. And it wasn't until we lived here where I'm like, oh, we live close to the beach, we live close to the mountains, we live close to Portsmouth, I'm really close to Portland, Maine, I'm close to Boston. I can kind of access all of that. And what that's led to is there are more people who I think are similarly minded like myself who've also moved here. And so that combination of, my father's generation of folks who've living in New Hampshire for a long time, mixed in with folks like myself who've come from different areas of the country or the world, it's an interesting but also fun combination. My father has moved up. I mean, I say he has moved up. I moved my father up here when we moved here. And he is from Virginia, so he is very much into the outdoors. So for him, this is like the ideal living situation. My sister, who is also from New York, she now lives up here from UNH. And so there are a lot of younger people like herself who are in this area who bring a whole new scope to New Hampshire. And I think what people sometimes forget is that New Hampshire is not going to change at the core. It's still this beautiful, green, outdoor-friendly state. But what comes with it is new restaurants, new shops, expanded, opportunities for education that otherwise didn't exist before because you have people of varying backgrounds coming here. I can imagine that you can take a language class that you might not have been able to take so freely before because there are people now who live here from different countries who can teach that. So it's wonderful in that way. My boys go to school out in Manchester, and my son's Spanish teacher is from Spain, and so he's moved out here, and it's like, oh, that's a possibility in New Hampshire that maybe 20 years ago might not have been as prevalent. So I think that's what makes it all encompassing and all great. You have all of those different facets all working together. And I've seen the shift in the last 6 years since I've been here, so it's been a good thing.
Good. Good. All right. Do you have any last words, thoughts, wisdom?
I mean, you're asking the person who can talk endlessly if I have any last words. I think, I think the big takeaway that I always try to tell people is try something new. So for me, joining the select board was something new and something I think beneficial, not just for me, but hopefully for the town. I think people have to open themselves up to parts of the world that maybe they never thought possible, opening themselves up to meeting new people. Sometimes you're going to meet people and you're like, oh my gosh, we're so aligned. Sometimes you're going to meet people and you're like, that might be the last conversation we have, but I'm glad I tried. That's okay. That's okay, and that's part of being in a community, and that's part of learning and growing, and that doesn't have to ever stop in life. So I guess that's my takeaway. That's a big global takeaway, but
Lovey's global takeaway.
Right, there you go. It's like my hashtag from here on out.
Hashtag my global takeaway. Start printing out some t-shirts. And
Right,
them.
with rugby numbers on the back.
With rugby.
Yeah. No, but this was fun. I was glad that I could have a conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you for coming here. I always appreciate it.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right, Exeter, you heard it. If you are interested in being in the spotlight, or you know somebody who you think should be in the spotlight, feel free to contact us at extvg@exeternh.gov. Thank you, and have a great day.